The Inner Fortress, written and published by Book Boost. Imagine you are walking down the street, minding your own business, when someone cuts you off in traffic. Your heart races. Anger rises within you. A sharp voice in your head tells you that you've been wronged. You feel the heat of frustration building. Now, think about it. Does this moment define you? Does this fleeting interaction dictate the rest of your day, your emotions, your peace? Every day, we face moments like this. A sharp comment from a coworker, an unexpected delay, or a disagreement with a loved one. In those moments, our emotions flare. We feel anger, frustration, sadness, or disappointment. But what if there was a way to live without letting these things control us? What if you could be so strong, so unshakable, that nothing outside your mind could disturb your peace? The truth is, we are often controlled by the smallest of things. We let outside events dictate our inner world. But here's the question: why let the world dictate how we feel? Why let a stranger's actions, or the weather, or the mistakes of others ruin our day? What if the key to true freedom lies in our own hands, the way we respond, or better yet, don't respond at all? This is where the ancient wisdom of Stoicism comes into play. Stoicism teaches us that the true power lies in controlling our reactions and mastering our own mind. Imagine no longer being a slave to anger, frustration, or the opinions of others. Imagine the peace of knowing that nothing can touch your inner calm. If this idea sparks something within you, if you want to learn how to never again get angry or upset, then you are in the right place. Welcome to Book Boost, where we dive deep into the wisdom that has stood the test of time. If you believe in the power of self-control, the power of your own mind, then hit that like, comment, share, and subscribe button now. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for what's next. Please drop down your one thought on believe in yourself in the comments. Let's inspire each other and begin our journey to inner strength together. Are you ready to take control of your emotions? Let's begin. The discipline of perception. We often hear that life is not what happens to us, but how we respond to it. But do we truly understand what that means? We live in a world full of triggers, people, events, situations that seem to test our patience, our peace of mind, and our inner strength. These moments are inevitable. We cannot escape them. But what if we could stop being controlled by them? What if we could train ourselves to see the world differently, in a way that shields us from the chaos of external events? This is the heart of Stoicism, the discipline of perception. It begins with a simple, yet profound realization: the world is neutral. Events, people, circumstances, they are neither good nor bad on their own. It is our perception of them that assigns value, that determines how we feel. The situation itself is just that, a situation. It's our judgment of it that makes it something to either fear, despise, or get upset about. Consider the way we react to criticism. A comment from someone can make us feel small, upset, or defensive. But the reality is that it's not the words that hurt us. It's our interpretation of those words. We decide in that very moment whether to be offended or to let it pass by like a gust of wind. We give power to what others say, but in truth, it is within our control to choose how we react to it. One of the greatest Stoic philosophers, Epictetus, once said, "We are not disturbed by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens." This wisdom calls us to take responsibility for our own perception of the world. It challenges us to stop seeing ourselves as victims of circumstances. No matter how hard life may seem, the real struggle is not external, but internal. It is the battle between what happens and how we choose to respond to it. There's a story of a man named Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, who faced countless challenges. He led a powerful empire, yet his life was filled with wars, political betrayal, and personal loss. In his private reflections, he often reminded himself that his only true power lay in how he chose to perceive the events around him. When faced with criticism, failure, or hardship, Marcus would return to the central truth of Stoicism. His mind was the one thing no one could take from him. And it was through the discipline of perception that he could maintain peace, no matter the storm raging outside. Imagine, for a moment, that you are confronted with a situation that would normally make you angry, perhaps a delay, a rude comment, or a failure. The first reaction is almost always automatic. The mind judges, it labels, it assigns meaning. But this is where we can make a choice. The Stoics teach us to pause in that moment, to observe our thoughts, and to remember that we do not have to react. We have the power to choose a different perspective. When we practice this discipline of perception, we learn to step outside of our automatic reactions. Instead of reacting with anger, frustration, or sadness, we can choose to see things as they are temporary, external, and outside of our control. The true practice of Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions. It's about changing the lens through which we view the world. It's about seeing the world as a series of events that don't have to control our inner peace. Take, for example, a person who cuts you off in traffic. A typical response might be anger, frustration, or irritation. But a Stoic response would be different. Instead of allowing that action to disturb your peace, you might remind yourself, this is not in my control. What is in my control is how I choose to respond to it. You might even reflect, this person is in a rush, maybe they're dealing with something difficult in their life. I can't change their behavior, but I can choose to remain calm. In this moment, you regain control over your emotions. You free yourself from the chaos of anger and frustration. It is important to understand that this practice does not come naturally. It requires effort, intention, and repetition. The Stoics themselves were not born with this discipline. They worked at it every day. And so must we. The goal is not to be perfect, but to improve. To train ourselves to pause, to observe, and to choose our reactions consciously. It is in this process that we begin to free ourselves from the grip of destructive emotions. In the face of difficulty, we may feel anger, frustration, or sadness rise up. But instead of letting these emotions take over, we can ask ourselves, what is this situation really about? How can I choose to see this differently? By shifting our perspective, we take away the power from the external event and place it back into our hands. This is the discipline of perception. This discipline can be applied to every area of our lives. When someone insults us, we can choose not to take it personally. When we face failure, we can choose to see it as an opportunity to learn, rather than a defeat. When we encounter setbacks, we can remind ourselves that life is not about what happens to us, but how we respond to what happens. Every situation becomes an opportunity for us to practice this discipline, to strengthen our ability to maintain inner peace. The ancient Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This statement speaks to the power of perception. Much of our suffering comes not from external events, but from how we choose to perceive them. When we view the world through the lens of fear, anger, or frustration, we make ourselves vulnerable to suffering. But when we choose to view the world with detachment, with equanimity, we free ourselves from the chains of negative emotion. The power to transform our emotional responses lies within us, in the discipline of perception. It is a practice that requires constant vigilance, but with time, it becomes a natural way of living. By training ourselves to see the world as it truly is, neither good nor bad, just events, we begin to reclaim our peace. We stop being at the mercy of external forces and instead take control of our own reactions. And in doing so, we find that we are no longer prisoners of anger, frustration, or fear. We are free. This freedom does not come easily. It requires commitment and daily practice. But it is worth the effort. By cultivating the discipline of perception, we learn to navigate the world with calm, strength, and grace. We no longer let the world dictate our inner peace. We hold the power to choose how we respond. And in that choice, we find the key to true freedom. The fire within. There is a fire that burns within all of us, a fire that can either destroy us or fuel us. The question is, which one will we choose? Will we allow this fire to turn into rage, causing destruction and pain? Or will we turn it into something powerful that propels us forward? Every day, we are faced with situations that challenge us. People will cut us off in traffic. A colleague will speak to us harshly. Our loved ones may fail to understand us. These things can trigger the fire within us, but the choice of how to respond is ours. The fire is not the problem. It is how we choose to channel it that matters. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor, wrote that we are not disturbed by the things themselves, but by our judgment of those things. What does this mean? It means that the fire of anger, frustration, or resentment does not come from the outside world. It comes from how we choose to react to what happens to us. The events are not what ruin our peace. It is our judgment of those events that causes the turmoil within us. Consider this. You've been working hard all week. You're proud of what you've done, but then someone criticizes you. It might be a simple comment, or it could be a harsh attack. In that moment, you feel a spark of anger, frustration, and even helplessness. You may even think, why am I being treated like this? What did I do to deserve this? These thoughts are natural, but they are also destructive. They fuel the fire of anger. But here's the truth. No one can make you feel anything unless you allow them to. The words, the criticism, they are just that. Words. The fire inside you is fueled by how you choose to react. This isn't to say that you shouldn't stand up for yourself or allow others to treat you poorly. On the contrary, Stoicism teaches us the importance of virtue, justice, and acting with integrity. But it also teaches us that our internal state is something we control. No one can force us into anger unless we give them that power. It's easy to let the flames of anger burn bright when we feel hurt or disrespected. But the Stoic response, the true path to inner strength, is to recognize that these feelings of anger or frustration are within our control. We can choose to let them consume us, or we can choose to let them pass like a storm. The key is not to feed the fire with our emotions, not to add fuel to it by ruminating over the insult or the slight. The key is to step back and realize that we are not our emotions. We are not the angry person or the frustrated person. We are the one who observes the anger, who recognizes it, and who chooses whether or not to act on it. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, said that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When we can understand this concept, we begin to master our reactions. And when we master our reactions, we take control of our lives. Imagine a person who has mastered this art. Imagine someone who walks through life unshaken by the harshness of others. Someone who sees a criticism or an insult not as an attack, but as an opportunity to remain calm, to be virtuous, to rise above the situation. This person does not feed the fire of anger. Instead, they use that energy to fuel their growth, to maintain their peace, and to continue on their path with clarity and purpose. You may be thinking, that sounds good in theory, but how do I actually do that? The answer lies in practice. It's not enough to simply understand that we have control over our reactions. We must actively work on it. We must train ourselves every day, in small moments, to resist the temptation to react. We must remind ourselves that we are the ones who choose how to respond, not the world around us. One powerful exercise is to pause before reacting. When something happens that triggers you, whether it's a harsh word from someone, an unexpected change in plans, or a moment of frustration, take a deep breath. In that pause, remind yourself that the fire is within you. You do not have to let it burn you. You can control it. You can choose to let it pass. In those moments, think of it as training for your soul. Every time you choose not to react in anger or frustration, you are strengthening your inner resolve. You are building your inner fortress. And as you practice this, the fire within you will no longer consume you. Instead, it will become a source of power, a power that drives you forward on your path to becoming the best version of yourself. This is not about being emotionless. It's not about suppressing your feelings. It's about recognizing that while emotions are natural, they do not have to control us. We are not helpless victims of our emotions. We are the masters of them. And the more we practice this, the stronger we become. The fire inside us becomes a tool for growth, not destruction. Marcus Aurelius also wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the heart of Stoicism. When we realize that our inner peace is something we control, we become invincible. We no longer let the world dictate how we feel. We stand firm, unshaken, no matter what life throws at us. In this way, the fire within us becomes a source of strength, not weakness. It fuels our resolve, our determination, and our courage. It allows us to rise above the petty challenges of life and stay focused on what truly matters: our character, our virtue, and our peace of mind. So the next time you feel that familiar spark of anger or frustration, take a moment to pause. Recognize that you have the power to control that fire. You can choose to let it burn you, or you can choose to transform it into something powerful. The choice is yours. The strength is within you. And remember, the true measure of strength is not how we react when things are easy. It's how we respond when things are hard. When we can remain calm and focused in the face of adversity, we unlock a power within ourselves that nothing can touch. This is the fire that we cultivate. This is the path of the Stoic. The control principle. In the midst of a world filled with chaos, there is one fundamental truth that can set us free from the turmoil: what is within our control and what is not. It's a principle that can completely change the way we live, how we see the world, and how we react to the events around us. If you understand this and live by it, you will never again be tossed around by anger, frustration, or despair. Every day, we face things that challenge us, things that seem unfair, painful, or unjust. People act in ways we don't like. Situations unfold that test our patience, and things happen that are beyond our control. But here's the secret that the Stoics knew so well: we cannot control other people, the world, or even most of what happens to us. But we can control our own actions, our reactions, and our judgments. Let that sink in for a moment. You might be thinking, but what about when someone insults me? or when something bad happens to me. Those things do happen. And when they do, they trigger emotions. It's normal to feel hurt or angry. But here's where the wisdom of Stoicism comes in. It teaches us that the only thing we can control is how we respond. And in that moment of response, we have the power to choose peace or chaos, calm or fury. Consider the example of a person who cuts you off in traffic. You can't control their actions. You can't stop them from driving recklessly. But you can control how you respond. You can choose to let their bad driving ruin your day, or you can let it go, choosing not to let it affect your inner peace. This is the heart of Stoicism. It's not about pretending nothing bothers you. It's about realizing that you don't have to react to everything. The event itself does not have the power to upset you. Your reaction to it does. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said it best. We are disturbed not by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens to us. This one sentence holds the key to the entire Stoic philosophy. The world will continue to throw challenges your way. People will continue to say hurtful things. Life will be unpredictable, and things will go wrong. But the power lies in how you choose to perceive and respond to these things. Think about it. How many times have you felt angry or upset by something someone else did? Maybe they didn't show up when they said they would, or they said something rude, or maybe they just did something that irritated you. In those moments, your mind is flooded with judgment, with thoughts that spiral out of control. You may begin to believe that they owe you something, that they have wronged you, and that this injustice must be corrected. But here's the question. What if you let go of the need to be right? What if you stopped expecting the world to act the way you think it should? What if you recognize that the only thing you can control is your own mind, your own thoughts, your own reactions, your own peace? This is where true freedom lies. When we are faced with a challenge or a difficult person, we can choose to act out of anger or out of wisdom. We can let the negative emotions take hold, allowing them to control us, or we can take a step back and choose to respond with composure, with patience, and with understanding. The Stoics taught us that it's in those moments, the moments where we are triggered, that we can make our most powerful choices. For example, imagine you are in an argument with a friend or a loved one. The conversation gets heated, and both of you are saying things that you don't mean. In that moment, you have a choice. You can either continue to escalate the argument, feeding into the anger and frustration, or you can choose to stop. You can take a breath, pause, and recognize that the fight is not worth losing your peace over. You can step outside of the emotions and see the situation for what it truly is. Just words, just temporary feelings that will pass. When you choose to control your response, when you choose to remain calm, you hold the power. You regain control of the situation. You regain control of your emotions. And this is not weakness. This is strength. True strength is not about the ability to dominate others or force the world to conform to your will. True strength is about controlling yourself, your own mind, and your own emotions. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. We all want to be strong. We all want to feel in control, in charge of our lives. And the truth is, we already are. We have the power to choose how we respond to any situation. The world might be unpredictable. People may act in ways that frustrate us, but we get to decide how we respond. We can choose to be angry, upset, or frustrated, but we can also choose to remain calm, composed, and rational. The power of Stoicism is not in avoiding challenges or pretending that difficult situations don't exist. The power lies in understanding that challenges are a part of life, but how we respond to them is within our control. We are not helpless victims of the world. We are the masters of our own minds. The Stoics didn't teach us to suppress our emotions, but rather to understand them. They taught us to examine the events in our lives not with judgment, but with perspective. They taught us that we can accept things as they are, rather than wishing they were different. They taught us that peace is not the absence of challenges, but the ability to remain peaceful despite them. So when you feel that surge of anger or frustration rising within you, take a moment to step back. Breathe. Remember that this emotion, this reaction, does not define you. It is only temporary, like a storm passing through the sky. You are in control. You can choose how you respond. You can choose peace. And in that choice, you reclaim your power, your freedom, and your inner strength. This is the essence of the Stoic principle. Control what is within your power and let go of what is not. When you do this, you will find that anger, frustration, and other destructive emotions no longer have the power to control you. Instead, you will be the one in control, calm, composed, and unwavering. You will be a master of yourself, And in that mastery, you will find true peace. The world cannot disturb your peace. Only you can. The question is, what will you choose? Silence over fury. There is a kind of strength that doesn't roar. It doesn't strike. It doesn't need to shout or prove anything. That strength is silence. Real silence. Not the kind that comes from fear or hesitation, but the kind that comes from deep, unshakable power. The kind that comes from understanding that nothing outside of you is worth the price of your peace. You have probably felt it before: an insult, a disrespectful tone, someone cutting into your words or mocking your beliefs. And then the fire rises. The urge to react, to correct them, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong. That's where most people fall. That's where most people lose. But not the Stoic. The Stoic knows that the one who controls himself is far greater than the one who controls others. The Stoic knows that responding in anger does not show strength, it reveals weakness. It shows that you have been conquered, not by the other person, but by your own emotions. Epictetus once said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Those words are sharp, because they are true. You see, when you react in anger, you give away your power. You give it to the stranger who cut you off, to the friend who betrayed you, to the boss who dismissed you. You hand them the keys to your emotional state. They don't even know it, but now they're in control. And you're the one suffering. So why not keep your power instead? Why not choose silence? Silence does not mean weakness. It is the space where wisdom grows. When someone offends you and you stay quiet, not because you're scared, but because you're stronger than the need to respond, you win. You win in a way the world doesn't always see. But your soul knows. Your mind knows. We live in a world that worships quick reactions. If someone attacks you, you're expected to strike back immediately. But that's not strength. That's noise. That's chaos. That's slavery to the emotions. The Stoic does not obey such impulses. The Stoic trains the mind to remain calm, unmoved, even under fire. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and a Stoic philosopher, faced betrayal, war, and constant pressure. But he wrote in his Meditations how much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it. He knew the truth: anger causes more pain than the thing that triggered it. It makes the injury worse. It adds fire to the wound. And when the flame dies down, what are we left with? Regret, guilt, shame. That's the price of reaction. So we train ourselves to do something else. We pause. We breathe. We wait. In that space between what happened and how we respond, there lies your entire freedom. That's the place where a wise person lives. And you may think, but they disrespected me. They don't deserve silence. But it's not about them. It never was. It's about you. It's about who you are and who you're becoming. When you hold your tongue, when you hold your temper, you send a message not to them, but to yourself. You tell yourself, I am in control. I am not a puppet of emotion. I choose peace. I choose power. And that choice, repeated again and again, builds a kind of inner strength that no one can shake. Think about it. When has anger ever improved your life? When has shouting or cursing or storming off ever brought clarity or peace? It might feel good in the moment, like scratching an itch, but afterward, the itch comes back stronger. Silence, though, it cools the fire. It allows you to think. It gives you room to decide, is this even worth my energy? And the truth is, most things aren't. Most arguments, most insults, most moments that spark rage, they're gone in a day, forgotten in a week, meaningless in a month. But the damage of your reaction, that can last much longer. You carry it. You replay it. You regret it. That's why silence is not just self-control, it's self-protection. Some will say, but if I don't stand up for myself, people will walk over me. That's a fear-based thought. The Stoic does not fear being misunderstood. The Stoic understands that respect does not come from volume, it comes from conduct. And those who truly matter, those who carry wisdom, will see your calm and respect you even more for it. So let others speak in anger. Let them throw words like weapons. Let them assume they've won because you didn't react. In time, their noise fades. And you? You remain still, like a mountain in a storm. Seneca once said, no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. That means moments of insult, disrespect, and betrayal, they're tests. Not tests of others. Tests of you. Will you prove yourself? Will you rise above? Or will you sink into the same noise that keeps the world in chains? The choice is always yours. There's a peace that comes with silence. A deep, rich peace. When you don't need to explain yourself, When you don't need to defend your name, when you don't let someone else's mood dictate yours, you're free. That's what we're after. Not revenge. Not victory. Not pride. Just freedom. So next time you feel the fire rising, pause. Next time someone strikes your ego, breathe. And in that pause, remember who you are. Remember the strength that does not shout. The strength that does not swing. The strength that simply is. Let them speak. Let the moment pass. And walk on, untouched. That is silence. That is power. That is Stoicism. Death, fate, and the Stoic calm. Life is fleeting. Every moment we live is one step closer to its inevitable end. Death, as much as we wish to avoid the thought of it, is not something that can be outrun. We all know, deep down, that death is the one certainty in life, but how often do we truly acknowledge it, feel its weight, and understand its role in shaping who we are? Most people go through life as though death is an idea to be pushed away, something to be feared, ignored, or avoided. We hear the phrase, live like there's no tomorrow, but for many, it's just words. It's easy to say, but much harder to truly live with the awareness that our time is limited. What happens when we don't confront death? When we don't recognize that the time we waste is the time we'll never get back? The Stoics, however, embrace death not in a way that encourages a morbid obsession, but with a sense of clarity. The philosopher Seneca often reminded us that no man is brave who has never been afraid. By recognizing the certainty of death, we become free of fear. We are not governed by what might happen in the future, or by the loss of things that we will inevitably leave behind. By acknowledging death as a natural part of life, we free ourselves from the anxiety that constantly holds us back. Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, taught us that it's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Death, by its very nature, can only harm us if we choose to fear it. But if we can see death as a release, a return to nature, we start to see life differently. Death is a reminder, perhaps the clearest one, that we do not control the world around us. We do not control when we were born, and we certainly do not control when we will leave. But what we can control, what we always have control over, is our response to it. We can choose not to fear it. And in choosing not to fear death, we begin to free ourselves from fear altogether. The Stoics understood that life is not about avoiding the inevitable, but about how we respond to the things we cannot control. Death should not be a source of sorrow, but a teacher. It teaches us the value of each moment, urging us to use our time wisely. Every second is precious. Every breath we take is a gift, and death is the reminder that our time is limited, so we must make the most of it. In the face of fate, we must ask ourselves, how will we respond? Life is a mix of joy and hardship, and while we may not have the power to choose what comes our way, we always have the power to decide how we react. Fate is not something to be feared. It is simply life unfolding as it will. It may bring us suffering, disappointment, and loss, but it can also bring us moments of greatness, of peace, of love. The key is not to focus on the things that happen to us, but how we can act with dignity, with purpose, in every circumstance. We all encounter tragedy. It is part of the human experience. But it is how we handle tragedy, how we face adversity, that defines our character. A Stoic does not run from pain or pretend it doesn't exist. Instead, a Stoic embraces it as part of the human condition. They understand that nothing in life is permanent, not the good, nor the bad, nor even our own suffering. By facing each moment as if it could be our last, we can live more fully, more intentionally. It's easy to get caught up in the small frustrations of life, to become angry over things that don't matter in the grand scheme. A misplaced word, a missed opportunity, a forgotten promise. But when we consider death, when we remember that time is fleeting, those small frustrations seem less important. Our priorities shift. The things that once seemed vital lose their hold on us. Think about it. When was the last time you truly embraced the fleeting nature of life? When was the last time you sat quietly and allowed the weight of your own mortality to guide you toward a life more present, more meaningful, more aligned with your true values? The answer is simple. Most of us don't do this often enough. We are too consumed by the distractions of daily life, too caught up in what others think of us, or too invested in things that ultimately don't matter. But imagine the clarity that comes with understanding your own mortality. Imagine how your decisions might change if you truly grasp the impermanence of everything. Would you still hold on to grudges? Would you still waste time on meaningless arguments or petty concerns? Would you allow the opinion of others to affect your peace? Or would you live in a way that reflects your deepest values, with a sense of urgency to live the life you were meant to live? We cannot outrun death. We cannot hide from it. But we can prepare for it. not by waiting for it with dread, but by living fully, living intentionally, and living with the understanding that each moment we have is a gift. Death is not our enemy. It is not something to be feared. It is merely the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. And in the meantime, we have this precious moment. The time to act, to grow, to learn, to love. Fate is not something to resist. It is something to accept. It is not about becoming passive in the face of life's challenges, but about seeing the challenges for what they are, part of the process, part of the path we walk. When we stop fighting against fate, when we stop struggling with things we cannot control, we become free. We become stronger. The Stoic approach to death is not one of despair or withdrawal, but of deep acceptance. It is a call to live with courage, with wisdom, and with a sense of purpose. The fear of death fades away when we embrace it as a natural part of life. And in doing so, we learn to live with a calmness, a peace, and a fortitude that cannot be disturbed by the troubles of this world. As we move through our lives, we are constantly reminded that time is short. Our lives are but a brief moment in the vast expanse of the universe. But this truth doesn't have to be a cause for sorrow. It can be a source of strength. For when we understand the brevity of life, we are empowered to live with intention, to make the most of every opportunity, and to embrace every moment with the dignity that comes from knowing our time is limited. And so, let us face the world with this awareness. We are mortal. We do not control everything, but we can control how we live. And in this, we find our greatest power. The power to live with peace, with purpose, and with a heart unshaken by the storms of life. Living by the Logos. We live in a world filled with chaos. Every day, we're bombarded by news, by demands from others, by the weight of expectations and the unpredictability of life. There's always something that can pull us off balance, something that can shake us to our core. But in all this noise, in all this madness, there's one thing that remains constant: the Logos. The Logos, in simple terms, is the reason, the rational principle that governs everything in the universe. It's the force that flows through all things, connecting them, guiding them. For the Stoics, understanding and living in accordance with the Logos was the key to true peace. And here's the most powerful part. You, too, are part of this Logos. You are connected to the same rational flow that orders the universe. It's in you. It's who you are at your core. The question is, are you living in harmony with it? Think about it. When you let anger, frustration, or fear take over, you are, in essence, fighting against the natural flow of life. You are resisting what is. Life is full of things we cannot control: how people behave, what happens around us, the events we don't expect. But what we can control, what we can always control, is how we respond. This is the essence of living in accordance with the Logos. It's not about forcing life to fit your desires. It's about understanding that life has its own rhythm and learning how to move with it, rather than against it. Imagine a river flowing peacefully. It has its course, it moves at its own pace. It doesn't struggle against obstacles, it simply flows around them. The river doesn't demand that the rocks move. It doesn't get upset when it faces resistance. Instead, it adapts, it bends, and it keeps moving forward. This is how the Stoic lives. This is how we should live. When you stop trying to control everything, when you stop letting outside events dictate your mood and your peace, you start to experience true freedom. True peace comes not from getting everything you want, but from accepting what is, from understanding that things will happen whether you want them to or not, and being okay with that. Life will throw curveballs. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. But you, as a rational being, have the power to decide how you react. You have the power to choose your response. And in that choice, you find your true freedom. The Stoics teach us that we must live according to nature. What does this mean? It means recognizing that there is an order to the universe. Everything, from the stars in the sky to the smallest detail of our daily lives, happens for a reason. We may not always understand that reason, but that doesn't mean it isn't there. The Stoics believe that by aligning ourselves with nature's plan, we would find peace. This doesn't mean we accept everything blindly. It means we approach each situation with wisdom, understanding that we can only control our own actions, thoughts, and responses. Think of the great Stoics: Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. These men faced trials that would have crushed most of us. Marcus Aurelius, for example, was not just an emperor. He was a man who had to navigate wars, personal loss, and political betrayals. Yet, he remained calm. He did not allow his external circumstances to disturb his inner peace. His ability to accept life's challenges with grace was rooted in his understanding of the Logos. He knew that life would not always be kind, but he could always control how he responded. This is the power of living by the logos. It's not about avoiding pain or hardship. It's about facing it with clarity, with composure, and with the knowledge that your response is yours to control. In every moment of life, there is a choice. When faced with anger, you can choose patience. When faced with frustration, you can choose understanding. When faced with hardship, you can choose resilience. And in each of these choices, you align yourself with the logos, the rational order of the universe. Now, consider your own life. How often do you find yourself caught up in emotions, anger, frustration, disappointment? How often do you let external circumstances determine your state of mind? The beauty of Stoicism and the power of the logos is that it shows us a different way. It teaches us that we don't have to be slaves to our emotions. We don't have to be controlled by external events. We are capable of a higher way of living, one that is rooted in reason, in understanding, and in acceptance. Living by the logos doesn't mean you become indifferent or detached from the world. Quite the opposite. It means you engage with life fully, but without letting it control you. You take action where you can, but you let go of the need to control everything. You recognize that you are part of something larger, something greater, and you move with that flow rather than against it. It's not always easy. The world will challenge you. People will disappoint you. But with each challenge, you have the opportunity to choose. And the more you choose wisely, the more you begin to embody the logos. You become a living example of reason, calm, and wisdom in a world that desperately needs it. When we align ourselves with the logos, we are no longer buffeted by the storms of life. Instead, we become like the river, flowing calmly around obstacles, always moving forward, always at peace. This is the Stoic path. This is the path of living by the logos. As you move forward, remember this: your peace, your serenity, your ability to live with purpose and strength, it all comes from within. It comes from your choice to live in harmony with the logos. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to practice. Every frustration is a chance to grow. Every moment of anger is a moment to choose calm. And with each choice, you get closer to the person you were always meant to be. In the end, living by the logos isn't about achieving perfection. It's about progress. It's about moving in the right direction, step by step, day by day. It's about living with intention, with clarity, and with the deep understanding that, no matter what happens, you have the power to choose your response. And in that choice lies your true strength. Amor Fati, written and published by Book Boost. Amor Fati, love your fate. These are not just words. They are the key to transcending the frustrations and struggles we face in life. Imagine waking up each day, knowing that everything that happens to you, every single event, no matter how challenging, is a gift. Picture yourself facing hardships with not just acceptance, but genuine gratitude. Is this possible? Yes, it is. At first, the idea of loving your fate might sound strange. We've been conditioned to resist difficulties, to wish for things to go our way. We spend our days hoping for the world to align with our desires. And when it doesn't, when the winds of life blow in a direction we didn't expect, we feel anger, sadness, or disappointment. Why did this happen to me? What did I do wrong? What if I could have avoided this pain? But here's the powerful lesson of Stoicism. Everything that happens to us, good or bad, is part of the natural order of things. Nothing is random. The universe, the world around us, works in a way we might not always understand, but it is always moving towards something greater. And it is in our response to these events, not the events themselves, that we find our power. To love your fate is to stop resisting what is, and to accept it fully. It is to stop fighting against the obstacles, the losses, and the pain that life throws your way. Instead of seeing these things as misfortunes, you begin to see them as opportunities to grow, to learn, and to become stronger than you were before. Every challenge becomes a lesson in disguise, every difficulty a test of your fortitude. Think about it for a moment. The most significant events in your life, the ones that shaped you, the ones that changed you forever, were probably not the easy ones. The moments when you were tested beyond your limits, when you were faced with pain, loss, or failure, were the moments that made you who you are today. If you had never faced those difficulties, would you be as strong? Would you be as wise? Would you understand yourself the way you do now? This is the essence of Amor Fati, embracing the things that make us uncomfortable, the things we try to avoid, because they are exactly what we need in order to grow. It is a way of viewing the world through the lens of opportunity instead of adversity. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and a man who ruled an empire, knew this truth intimately. He wrote about how every moment of life, no matter how difficult, was a chance to exercise virtue. He didn't view setbacks or hardships as obstacles, but as integral parts of his journey. He saw his struggles as chances to practice wisdom, courage, and justice. By embracing his fate, he was able to lead not just an empire, but a life of meaning and purpose. And what about you? Can you learn to love your fate in the same way? Can you look at every challenge, every setback, every person who hurts you as an opportunity to become better, stronger, and more resilient? This isn't about being passive or complacent. It's about shifting your perspective, transforming the way you view the world, and recognizing that you have the power to turn any situation to your advantage. When something goes wrong in your life, when someone insults you, when a plan falls apart, when the universe seems to be working against you, don't immediately react with anger or frustration. Instead, ask yourself, what is the lesson here? What can I learn from this? How can I turn this into an opportunity for growth? This doesn't mean you have to like every situation. You don't have to pretend that everything is perfect, but it does mean that you accept it. You stop wishing it were different, because in wishing it were different, you give away your power. You give away your peace. You let the world control how you feel. If you want to be truly free, you must take back that control. You must embrace your fate, not as something that happens to you, but as something you choose to accept. And in accepting it, you unlock the strength to overcome anything that comes your way. Imagine what life would look like if you could stop fighting against the difficulties that are a part of it. If you could face every moment with the understanding that it is all part of your journey, nothing is wasted, nothing is meaningless. The good, the bad, the challenges, the victories, they are all threads in the fabric of your life, each one necessary, each one shaping you into the person you are meant to become. This is what it means to love your fate. It is not a passive acceptance of life's challenges. It is a deep, active choice to embrace them, to learn from them, and to use them as stepping stones toward the highest version of yourself. The Stoics understood that our power lies not in controlling the world around us, but in controlling how we respond to it. By practicing amor fati, you free yourself from the tyranny of frustration and disappointment. You no longer wait for life to go your way. You make peace with whatever comes, knowing that every experience, no matter how painful, is an opportunity for you to grow. And in this freedom, you find true peace. So, let us remember, life is not about avoiding suffering or searching for endless comfort. Life is about embracing what comes our way, with courage, with grace, and with the unwavering belief that everything we face is part of our path. It is the key to living without regret, without anger, and without fear. Amor fati, love your fate. Embrace it, for it is the very thing that will lead you to the life you were meant to live. The Stoic Ascent. We've walked a long path together, haven't we? From the first spark of understanding about controlling our reactions to the powerful realization that our peace is not for the world to decide. This journey is not for the faint of heart, nor for those who wish to take the easy road. The path of the Stoic is not about seeking pleasure or avoiding pain. It is about mastering what lies within us, the one thing we can truly control. What do we seek at the end of this journey? We seek not the absence of hardship or struggle. Life will always challenge us. The world will never bend entirely to our will. But we seek something far more profound, the power to endure with grace, to face everything with equanimity, and to transform every external event into an opportunity for growth. The Stoic ascent begins when we understand that life itself is the greatest teacher. We often think of life as something we must conquer, something to control or manipulate. But what if the true path to freedom lies in surrendering not to weakness, but to the understanding that we cannot control everything around us? The only thing we can master is how we respond. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, reminded himself every day, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. How simple, yet how profound. Our minds are not the prisoners of circumstance. They are the rulers of our fate. In this world, events will come and go. Some will bring joy, others will bring sorrow. But your response, your inner state, can remain untouched if you choose it. The practice of Stoicism is not about feeling nothing. It's about mastering the way you feel. Anger, frustration, fear, these are not enemies in themselves. It is the unthinking reaction to these emotions that we must conquer. It is the knee-jerk impulse to lash out, to retaliate, to blame, that binds us. The Stoic seeks to pause, to breathe, and to ask, what is within my control in this moment? Let us not forget the example of Epictetus, who, despite being born a slave and enduring hardships most of us cannot fathom, became one of the greatest teachers of Stoic philosophy. He was not in control of his circumstances, but he was in control of his mind. His words echo through time, It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Imagine if we all carried this mindset. What if, in every moment of frustration, of anger, or sorrow, we took a step back and reminded ourselves, this is an opportunity for growth. This is a chance to build my inner fortress, to test my resilience, and to be the master of my emotions. And as we continue to live, day by day, moment by moment, we begin to notice something remarkable. We stop being at the mercy of the world. We stop reacting with the same intensity. Instead, we begin to respond with wisdom. We learn that not every battle is worth fighting. Not every insult needs a reply. Not every setback requires a tear. In truth, the Stoic ascent is the path of gradual change. It is not a sudden transformation, but a steady evolution. Over time, you will notice how differently you react to life's challenges. What once would have triggered a burst of anger or despair now barely moves you. You begin to see life for what it truly is, an ongoing series of events, some within your control, others not. But your peace? That's always yours to command. Let's look at the power of silence. Think about a situation where you feel your emotions rising, anger, frustration, the need to respond, to argue. A Stoic doesn't react impulsively. Instead, they pause. They take a deep breath. They remind themselves that their peace is more valuable than winning an argument, more important than being right, more precious than any fleeting victory. In that moment of silence, they reclaim their power. They choose how to respond, not out of anger or fear, but out of wisdom and self-control. This is the essence of Stoicism, not that you will never feel pain, but that you will never again be ruled by it. Not that you will never face difficulties, but that you will always meet them with calm and resolve. The Stoic lives as if each challenge is a step towards becoming a stronger, more resilient person. With each setback, they become more grounded, more centered in their truth. As you continue this journey, remember this: it is not about perfection. Stoicism is not a destination, but a way of life. There will be times when you falter, when your emotions get the better of you. But the Stoic knows that every failure is simply another opportunity to practice, to learn, to grow, to refine the soul. The greatest Stoic philosophers didn't live in ivory towers, untouched by the world. They lived in the midst of chaos, pain, and struggle, just like us. Yet they remained unshaken because they knew the secret: the world may change. People may disappoint you. You may face hardship and loss. But the one thing no one can take from you is your ability to choose your response. And so, the Stoic ascent continues. It's not a matter of reaching the summit, but of the climb itself, the daily practice of living with wisdom, patience, and courage. Every day offers a new chance to grow stronger, to rise higher, and to live with a sense of peace that cannot be disturbed by the whims of fate. This is the way of the Stoic. A way not of fighting the world, but of mastering oneself. A way not of avoiding pain, but of facing it with dignity. And in this, we find a freedom like no other, the freedom that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, we are the masters of our own minds. This is your invitation. The ascent is not easy, but it is worth every step. Take the path of the Stoic, and you will find a strength within yourself that you never knew existed. You will find peace that cannot be shattered, no matter the storm around you. And in this peace, you will finally discover the true power that lies in your control, your response, your mind, your soul.